Afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending what seems to be Britain's Energy Course Business Cluster's best attended e-meeting so far. We've got 253 people registered, and as we were just saying, over 160 in the room so far, so that's absolutely fantastic. So I'm really pleased to welcome members of BECBC, so there's some familiar faces in there, the NIA as well, and a range of other industry colleagues I can see, some new faces there that I've not come across before. It's great to see and welcome you into the BECBC fold. So right now we're incredibly pleased to be able to present, in association with our friends at the NIA, some real green shoots of recovery with some important upcoming work coming out of Sellafield. It's great news for the supply chain post-COVID, and we're delighted to be able to use some very necessary innovation in our Zoom platform to deliver this communication in a virtual environment. I think it's really important we still maintain that connection. And as a business cluster, and specifically with my role as the leader of the Nuclear Engagement Group, we see ourselves as a link between the site licence companies and the wider supply chain, and it's really is core to our mission that we're here to help support the supply chain to meet the needs of the industry through collaboration, networking and guidance. So for those of you new to BECBC, welcome to the event, and please let us know if you'd like some more information on becoming a member. We feel we're here to help the industry to meet the challenges that it has. And without further ado, really, I'd like to hand you over to Rob McGarel of Sellafield, who will present the first opportunity for the 63 element racks. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks very much. Hi, hey everybody on the call. As we just said, my name's Rob McGarel. I'm the category manager for manufactured products. Hopefully some of you out there already know me, but if not, again, big hello. So I'm going to be talking firstly about the 63 Can Racks. Give you a brief overview. So these racks are required to be stored in Thorpe receipt and storage ponds. So for those who don't know Sellafield, will understand the acronym Thorpe. It's a thermal oxide reprocessing plant. This is the one that went out of operations last year. And these will be in line with the AGROP program requirements. So the AGROP program is where we are defueling the nuclear power plants around the UK as part of the overall UK mission. So as part of the racks, we have three strategic outcomes that we're looking for, and I'll say these in reverse order. So the third one is the actual production delivery. So we're looking for a supply chain who's capable, who can actually deliver against our requirements and our program. The second one, of course, is on-time delivery. We have a program to meet across the UK, and you guys and supply chain are key partners in meeting that on-time delivery. And the final and top critical success factor is a good quality outcome from the supplier to our specification. So the racks themselves are made up of 7x3 arrays of stainless steel tubes, and each tube houses 3 CAGR slotted cans. You'll see that later in regards to HISSC, and these cans carry dismantled fuel assemblies from the power plants. So a few key features. They've got some lifting features, a lid, the inlet tubes, tube raise and a base. So you would say it's quite a simple design, but as you'll go on, you see we do have some areas that we need for you guys to be aware of. So next slide. If you slides up, then the next slide is some of the key challenges that we face. So just on the top right-hand corner, for those who can see it, if not, hopefully those who can't will get it later. The mass weight of these empty is 6 tons. The laden weight is 18.6 tons in the pond, with dimensions of 5.6 meters high, 2.4 meters wide, and 1.1 meter deep. The material of these is predominantly 304L stainless steel. Now, from our design, what we've been looking at is some of the key challenges for us and for the supply chain. So key challenges are: how does the tube array to base plate weld, and how do you ensure what good quality? So welding capability is key for this element. The lifting features, how to achieve and demonstrate positional accuracy. This means that we can interface with it cleanly with our machines on site. And the critical tube spacing and it's how to maintain a minimum of 80mm gap between the tubes. So these are some of the key challenges that we believe you guys are going to face, but we are there to support you. So that is the overview. It's a very, as I say, it's quite a simple product when you look at it.
Okay, so these were pre-submitted questions on the 63 Can Racks. So question from a couple of organisations in understanding more about the scope of the 63 Can Racks opportunity. Is the provision of on-site support from the delivery of the racks to Sellafield's site to installation in the pond, including any mechanical aspects covered within this procurement scope, or will that be a separate work package at a later date?
Okay, so any on-site support or mechanical handling to move racks around site is not part of the rack scope or the tender. The arrangements are already in place, and we do not anticipate there will be any need for more supply chain support on this one.
All right, second question on the Can Racks. Can Sellafield please identify the approximate number of deliverables, i.e. products, for 63 Can Racks?
63 Can Racks, we're looking for 2 suppliers, 80 racks for each, so 160 in total. CTM does, which is our tender management system, contains a briefing notes explaining the number of racks, including the potential for Sellafield Limited to order up to 80 additional racks, i.e. 240 in total. The notice is called 63CR Hybrid 2 Prop Scope Final and was published on the 24th of June.
Okay, thanks Rob. In the information available within the CTM, there is reference to initial volumes of 160 units across 2 delivery streams, with option to increase to 240 units. However, the original scope was numbers around the 600 mark. Is this still the case? And is there any clarity on this? This will allow tenders to plan for forward loading and drive to invest in plant and resources going forwards.
So the answer is yes. So hybrid 263 Can Racks are currently expected to store a proportion of the total volume of AGR fuel, specifically spent fuel, which is a high risk of failure, and for which the hybrid 2 design has a feature that will enable containment of the actual rack itself. And this is the first 106. So we are looking at potentially adopting a simplified racking system if we can do, and that could be in the form of something that is readily available in the market or a much simplified design. Now, the additional 80 racks under this hybrid 2 opportunity offers us the float to fully explore that option.
Okay, I think that covers that one. A few more, Rob, if that's okay. Here are a couple of questions about the design status of Hybrid 2 63 Can Rack. We'll also cover a question later in the session which will give more detail on the design aspect for both opportunities. Is the Hybrid 2 63 Can Rack in its final design, and will any further changes be taking place? Will the design be frozen before tender release?
Okay, thank you. Hybrid 2 is currently going through the final assurance reviews at Sellafield. Design will be frozen before it goes to market. Okay.
And will the final design be available by the September 2020 deadline?
Yes.
Okay. And referring to the draft specification spec tech 0912_1 issue P9, which has been published in the 63 Can Racks CTM opportunity, in section 3.7 fuel tubes, it is stated that the tubes can be supplied to the tolerances required from 2 different suppliers. On investigation, it has come to light that some of the supply would be from emerging markets. Is Sellafield Limited comfortable that the key elements of these items could be supplied from emerging markets, and would site visits be required to the manufacturing plants?
Okay, big question. Okay, the suppliers that are currently shown in the draft specification have confirmed that dimensionally they can meet the technical product specification. However, they are not SL pre-approved suppliers. It is up to the manufacturer to ensure that they meet all technical product specification requirements. With regards to emerging markets, as long as they meet the technical specifications and quantity requirements, and the national standards, then it is acceptable. Third point, with regards to site visits, it's the responsibility of the rack manufacturer to ensure that what is delivered meets the technical product specification. Therefore, it is down to the rack manufacturer to decide if plant visits are required. In regards to, is it compulsory to use the supplies in the specification, they have added to try to help possible rack manufacturers to source some tubes that can be made in-house or from an alternative supplier if they meet the technical product specification.
Okay. Next question. Regarding the array tube, Sellafield Limited proposed commercially purchased rolled drawn tube. Does Sellafield Limited still require this? Our investigation previously found that this was a non-standard size at high cost, long lead time, or large mill run batch sizes.
Okay, as part of our design process, the tolerance of the tubes have been relaxed, which has opened up the route of using tube that can be made to commercially available tolerances.
Okay, that covers the questions that we have for you there, Rob. So I think we move on to the next section.
Yes, okay. So high integrity stainless steel containers. Hopefully got the brief earlier before hopefully I went offline, or not went offline. These have been used on Sellafield site for circa 20 years now. So there were 3 key critical success factors. The first one being security of supply. These products keep the majority of our operations on site running. Therefore, it's critical that we have these available at all times. Secondly, is achievability. We need to engage with the supply chain who can actually give us an achievable plan to mobilise these products into production state. And the third one is value for money for the taxpayers. So the HISSC tender will be broken into 4 lots. The first lot is drums, so these are 500 litre product drums. And as you can see from the presentation, there are 5 different versions or variants of the drum. The second lot will be general fabrication. This will include the 2 stillages that transport the drums onto Sellafield site and continue with them through their life into the geological repository. And these are the compact and hybrid stillages. There is a mega beta gamma waste box on there, so that is a 4 metre cubic box. And a beta gamma waste stall, which is used to stack 3 boxes on top of each other. The third lot is these, what I call the pressings, slotted can and clip-on base. So as I mentioned earlier, it's the CAGR slotted can, and 3 of these goes into each of the array tubes on the 63 can rack, as mentioned earlier. And then there's the second product, which is the clip-on base. And these clip-on bases are used in one of the drums, which is the WTC container, after processing in-house at Sellafield. And the final lot in there is the WVP container, which is the waste vitrification plant, glass container. So now are the 4 lots. So as you can see from the 4 lots, there is potentially a lot of interaction between either the plants or the supply chain, what you'll see on the slide is all of the SL customers will be aligned to the Manufacturing Products Intelligent Client Organisation, and we will ensure that all demand and all information comes through a single route of requirements as part of the contract going forwards. Okay, so this is a bit of a deeper view on the products. So you can see on there are the 5 different product types. Some of these have same bodies, but the differences on the internal, whether it's a paddle or just a storage device. The key challenges on these are production scheduling and line design to allow multiple variants of drums to be manufactured within the facility. Repeatability and automation of the welding processes. Due to there being a number of different manufacturing techniques required to manufacture a drum, rolling, welding, pressing, machining, etc., we're looking, to enable see suppliers who have got that capability either in-house or to bring it together with the supply chain. So for these products, the products are mainly made up of L316 and 304 materials. Okay, this is lot 2. So we mentioned just briefly that the 2 stillages in this lot are there to transport the drums onto site. There's 2 variants there for different types of drums. As you'll see, these are estimated about 558 kilos each. Made up of stainless steel EN 1.4403 and 1.4307. The key challenges to these is this whole lot is the general complexity of the BECBC waste box, which is a picture in the bottom left-hand corner. That is a weight of 1.3 tons with nominal overall dimensions of 1,852 millimeters. In width and depth, and 1,350 millimeters in height. Size of press and machining capability required to manufacture that product, and the space and handling for the relatively large products as well. So these are the key challenges we believe is in that lot. And again, the steel is standard steel, available from the supply chain. Okay. The HISSC Lot 3 CAGR static can and clip-on base, and the chop drawing areas of the CAGR static can, and the bottom picture is simplified bases. So we have 2 different materials. So the static can is stainless steel, and the alpha mediation base is carbon steel. So again, key challenges on this one are setup of resistance welding for the CAGR static can. There are some certain geometrical points that is part of the critical quality features that support nuclear safety on the CAGR static can. And if these are, if these are being made in the same facility, same area, is the segregation of mild steel and stainless steel. The final product there in the HISSC lots is the vitrification waste container. This is a glass product container, so we have superheated molten glass going into these. So it's made up of a high temperature stainless steel. Key challenges, this is a very high risk product which requires radiography, and it requires an external surface texture which is critical to 0.6 to 1.6 RA. And the other key areas of this one is the forming of the neck. We believe that is a challenge, and the supply chain need to be aware of it.
Okay, Rob, as you might have guessed, we have some pre-submitted questions for this section as well. So, on HISSC, could Sellafield please identify approximate number of deliverables, i.e. products, for each of the following? And that's each of the 4 lots for drums, general fabrications, CAGR slotted cans and clip-on, and the WVP glass product container bases. Rob, the 4 lots, can you just identify the approximate number of deliverables for each of the 4 lots?
I do apologise. Okay, there are 4 lots. Some will be multi-supplier. We are still working out the full details at this time. We are reviewing its demand and stock to provide an update to the volumes required across all 4 lots, which will be available prior to the tender going out and being released.
Okay. It was stated during the April 2019 presentation, which is available on CTM, that Sellafield expected they would not award all the groups to a single supplier. How do they envisage achieving this? Whole group placed with a single supplier, or a group split between 2 or more suppliers?
Okay, we are looking at how we might place restrictions on the award of contracts to prevent a sole supplier securing all lots, as this would not meet our key critical success factor of security of supply. Lot 1 will be multiple award. There will be no restrictions on what suppliers can bid for, but again, as we said, we are working it all up currently, and further details will follow.
Okay, next question is relevant to both opportunities. Are Sellafield considering awarding multiple contracts for one or more of these projects? And if so, would they consider mandating multiple contractors to procure semi-processed materials from a single source for quality consistency, CFSI management and batch control? How will the procurement of stainless steel how will the procurement of the stainless steel required be managed?
Okay, there will be multiple contracts awarded for HISSC, both HISSC and Racks, which supports the critical success factors of security of supply. However, SL will not mandate where materials or sub-assemblies are sourced from, except in certain instances. For example, the use of Geisen fittings. This is required to interface with what we have on the plant. This is only where we have to specify something that we will mandate it.
Okay, again, relevant to both opportunities. Is this a design and manufacture opportunity or build to print?
We call it build to specification. We expect the product design to be fixed, but suppliers will be expected to determine their own design for manufacturing process and the technologies methods used to produce the products.
All right, thank you. Again, relevant to both opportunities. Where a proposed design change might or would lead to an improved product outcome with manufacturing, potentially performance and economic benefits, how would the supplier engage with the Sellafield team to progress this?
Okay, as I mentioned on the last question, the product design is expected to be fixed. We've designed a change control process so that design improvements can be brought into Sellafield. As the product interfaces with multiple handling equipment in a variety of plants, the project would need to liaise with all stakeholders and ensure the design change provides holistic benefits, i.e. change to the rack may require investment on the plant. So we do see opportunities, but going into the end, it will be a fixed design.
Okay, and just in light of your answer to that previous question, how would confidentiality be protected on new ideas?
As we don't expect any design improvements during the tender, once in contract, the intellectual property arising from the contract be held by SL, strike the NDA. And where there are multiple suppliers making a single product, it may be necessary to revise the drawings and share with all suppliers who have contracts for any specific product.
Okay, and what are the standards? Any particular standards that must be adhered to, again, applying to both of these opportunities?
All contracts will include a set of standards. They will be a combination of international standards, European standards, British standards, and Sellafield standards where applicable. All standards will be clearly referenced in all the documentation, whether it's just technical specifications or the contract schedules.
All right, a couple more on this section. Has there been any consideration in the project for the current COVID-19 situation in respect to the material requirements and lead times? There's been a recognised lead time increase on specialised materials. I was wondering if this has been factored into the delivery expectations.
Okay, I'll take that one. The project team is still gathering intelligence at this moment. To date, there has been no specific feedback as to COVID impact, other than our working arrangements, and we are hoping that these will be eased by the start of the tender. If there are any impacts, then we are keen to understand them so we can build into our planning the tender timescales, mobilisation, product lead times, etc., that COVID may have impacted. So again, I think on this one, we're asking the supply chain to inform us.
All right. Given the nature of some of the processes potentially required for manufacture of items in this contract, will the mechanical and chemical tolerances be made available prior to quotation, or will commercial tolerances be suitable?
Okay, so on this one, all tolerances will be set out within our specification. Okay, so Sellafield is aiming to publish specifications for all products before the tenders commence. But it will all be included.
All right,
whether
thank you.
Commercial or specific, it should be clear.
Okay, who's going to organise the inspection and testing plan?
Okay, so that is responsible of the manufacturer in accordance with the quality manual. Will produce the inspection and test plan. But this has to be accepted by SL.
And who will be used for third-party inspection?
either Sellafield, sorry, or independent inspection via the existing supply chain.
Okay, and I think this is our final question for this stage of the presentation. Who will organise this third-party inspection, and at what stages would they be needed?
Okay, on this one, it's the manufacturer has to raise a notice of inspection, or an NOI form, which they submit to Sellafield. Sellafield then allocate a third-party inspector. The stages where a third-party inspector is required will be identified in the inspection and test plan. However, it is anticipated that this demand will be minimal once the manufacturer is in full production.
All right, that's all the questions at this stage. I can see there's quite a lot of questions coming through in the chat, and as I said at the start, with so many people on the call and the meeting, it's going to be impossible to look back through all those questions and get answers for you during the session. But please do prefix them with a Q. It will just help us to identify questions versus comments versus people just saying hello to each other as we look down the transcript after the session. So please do, if you can, just prefix any questions with a Q, and that will just help us to make sure we can get an answer back to you. So so back across to you, Rob, and you can continue with the next section.
Okay, I think this one is where Mike jumps in.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Melia. I'm sourcing manager at Sellafield. I'm working with Rob on the contract opportunities for 63 Can Racks and HISSC. So my job now is just to give you a simple overview of the processes and the procedures we'll be following, and give you some hints and tips that might be of use as you're going through the process. So first thing to make you aware of is that these are both ODU procurements, or under the Public Contract Regulations 2015. For the 63 Can Racks, we'll be using something called the competitive procedure with negotiation. You may not be familiar with that. Sellafield hasn't used it that much in recent years, but we are going to have a go on racks. HISSC will be the restricted procedure. I don't plan to get into the detail of the differences between the two processes here. We could be here for some time trying to explain that. What I would say is if people are interested, then we are prepared to give additional information on this, just to help people prepare for the tender. So we'd appreciate feedback on that. But essentially, just to give you a quick overview, both of them are a two-stage approach. So there will be a selection questionnaire. We will down select to a number of tenderers who we invite to receive the tender documentation. For racks, the difference here is that there is what's called an initial tender. Then we negotiate or have dialogue on the initial submission, and then we have an invitation to submit a final tender. And at that point, we do the evaluation. Whereas on HISSC, we will go straight into the tender phase and then evaluate. So it's a more streamlined process that we are proposing for HISSC. Next slide, please, Andrew. In terms of timescales, we're currently targeting September 2024 63 Can Racks to publish the contract notice and then the selection questionnaire. And we are looking at November 2020 for HISSC. Worth noting that when we publish the selection questionnaire for both of these, we intend to publish all the tender information so people can see the exact process, all the documentation that you'll need to tackle throughout the entire process if you're to be successful to be down selected from the selection phase into the tender and award phase. Next slide, please, Andrew.
Okay, that was a short phase. Now we have got some questions for you, Mike. I'm afraid you don't escape. So if we can just go into those now. In reference to the procurement procedure, and in particular the selection questionnaire stage, the initial stage for both the racks and HISSC procurements, potential supplier information questions are clear. 1.1a to 3.2. When will tender specific questions be available on CTM?
So we will not be able to publish any questions in advance of the tender. I think it's just worth noting that we have started to publish some information in advance around technical specifications, drawings, elements of the commercial strategy for racks, and we will do the same for HISSC. But in terms of the questions, we will not be able to publish any of the questions until we actually commence the competition. in September and November, respectively.
Okay, thank you. Again, relating to HISSC, in light of recent COVID interruptions to the Sellafield decommissioning projects and the extension to their completion dates added to some changes in the waste characterisation and disposal routes, what confidence have Sellafield got in the timescales and quantities published back in April 2019?
So I think there's a similar question earlier about the demand profiles. We are continually reviewing our demand profiles, and it just so happens that we're going through a lifetime working plan review currently. And we're also understanding the impact of COVID. I think it's fair to say that the demand is going to be uncertain over the life of particularly HISSC, given the duration of it. We have more certainty in the near term than we have for the medium and long term, and that's something that will be reflected in the competition documents. For the racks, that's a different scenario. We have high confidence in the demand. I think we've made statements to the effect that we require 40 per year, and that will be split across 2 suppliers, as Rob alluded to earlier.
Okay, thank you. What visibility will suppliers get of products that have already been made?
Okay.
Go on, Rob, I'll let you take this one.
No, I'm just going to say that we are planning to make a video initially on CCM, recognising some of the restrictions about site visits, etc.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. This might be another one for you. Will Sellafield share lessons learned from incumbent suppliers, and will incumbent suppliers be obligated to pass on their experience? How will this information be cascaded?
Okay, so on this one, we are providing as much learning as possible through the information we've shared and plan to share on CCM. We do take note of manufacturers' intellectual property rights, etc. But all the learning is being built into the documents that we send out as part of the tender.
All right. Next up, will there be an opportunity for SMEs to bid for any of this work?
Andrew, I think there might be some other slides after this around CTM, which might be worth me covering them before we move on to
Fine.
those
Yeah,
questions.
okay.
Yeah, I just want to point out that for those that have worked with Sellafield before, you'll be aware that we use Complete Tender Management as our portal. Rob mentioned this before. For those that haven't worked with Sellafield, our advice is that you register on this as soon as possible. The link on the slides will take you to that. It's also through our Sellafield internet page. We've got reference numbers for each of the opportunities, and within each of those opportunities, you will have to register first. But once you're into there, you can see all the information that we've published to date, get yourself up to speed, and we will periodically be revising that information and publishing as much as we can to make the tender process as smooth for you, to help yourselves arrange your internal governance and with your supply chain.
I'll let you carry on with these slides then, Mike, if that makes more sense. And then we can come to, there's a few remaining questions, but perhaps we come to those after you've covered this section.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I think just a few hints and tips around how to prepare for the procurements. Obviously, we're using 2 different processes under PCR. Please make yourself familiar. And as I said before, if you want some information on that, we are happy to provide or engage with the market in an alternative way. Just to give you that kind of additional insight before we enter the procurement. As I said, make sure you register on CTM, declare your interest, and read the information. It's really important that you do understand what it is we're looking for. Take the time to engage with the supply chain. I can see the chat bar on this, and people are asking questions, seeking advice from each other. I think that's fantastic that we are looking to do that, and that the supply chain can arrange itself early. And a key point here is that we are able to accept and respond to clarifications. Rob made a really interesting point before about we are seeking feedback around impacts on COVID. That absolutely stands. We're only as good as the information we receive, and we can only receive it through all the channels we have access to. Clearly, the supply chain understand the impacts on themselves better than we do. So we'd ask you to keep us informed of anything. And if we can spot general themes or trends, then we can respond to that. But the clarifications can cover anything, and we will do our best to answer those. The rules around clarifications are stated on CTM, so just make yourself aware of that as well. Thank you.
Okay, so as I indicated, there were just a couple more questions, Mike, which hopefully you can help with. Are suppliers able to bid for more than one lot or for all lots?
There's no restriction on bidding, so suppliers can bid for all lots, all products, HISSC and Racks. We are looking at restrictions on the awards that can be made, and I think Rob referred to this earlier. Rob said that there'll be multiple suppliers for lot one. So clearly, there's something to consider there, and then we're thinking about how that plays out across the other lots as well for HISSC.
All right. What level of experience is required in nuclear manufacturing?
I think the experience is against the specification rather than nuclear specifically. And suppliers should make themselves familiar with the spec and the requirements.
Okay, what about the pricing model? What will be the pricing model throughout mobilisation and production?
So we are proposing a fixed price approach for the racks, and that'll be fixed in mobilisation and then fixed through the main production phase. We're still working that level of detail up on HISSC currently. We've already commenced market engagement on that, and a lot of that has been fed into our thinking, but we're still going through our governance, so it'd be wrong for me to share anything at this stage until it's been signed off within Sellafield.
Okay. What value of insurances are required by the supplier, such as employer's liability insurance, PI insurance, public liability, product liability, and so on?
Okay, so again, we haven't had this approved internally yet. We are due to get this signed off at in August. So my advice for the suppliers is keep an eye on CTM, because we'll be able to publish this for racks in around August time, and then we'll be doing something similar for HISSC, so suppliers can make sure that they've got the right things in place, or certainly can take steps to have it in place as we move into the tender and the contract.
Okay, thank you. And will there be a PCG? Will a PCG be applicable for the contracts?
Yes, it's, although not signed off, highly likely that if a supplier can get a parent company guarantee, we will ask for it. We're still having conversations about any other form of guarantees or bonds, but I'd say it's 95% that we will go for a parent company guarantee if a supplier can provide it.
Okay. And just move on. I think that sums up all of the questions that we have had pre-submitted. Now, again, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and I can see that there are lots of questions that are coming through. Just the nature of the number of questions and how many people are in the session, we are really going to find it very difficult to work our way through those. So what we'll do, as I said earlier, we'll run through the transcript from the chat, and we'll make sure that those questions get put to the right individual, and obviously answers will be circulated with details in a follow-up email that comes after the session. Now, something that doesn't always happen very often, but we're actually very well ahead of time. So the proposal was that we can go into a quick networking session to take up some of the gap. Now, given, again, the number of people that we've got in the room, and we've still had people joining us throughout the presentations, I'm going to set up breakout rooms, and I'm just automatically going to put people into groups of 5 or 6, and that will just provide an opportunity for some networking. Obviously, it's fairly informal. Please feel free to join in, make introductions, and so on. So we'll allocate these breakout rooms at random. You'll get a request that appears on screen asking you to join. just click that link and it will take you into the breakout room. We'll set it up for about 15 minutes, and then you'll automatically be brought back to the main meeting where we'll just summarize and close the session. So like I say, it's going to be about 4 or 5 people per room, and you'll see that request pop up on screen any second now. Okay, welcome back everybody. Hope you found that networking session helpful. Good opportunity just to introduce yourselves to each other, possibly learn a little bit more about Britain's Energy Coast Business Cluster, and of course potentially explore collaboration opportunities and so on. So we're a little bit ahead of time. We've had a huge number of questions which have come through the chat. The questions and answers for those will be circulated after the event. We've got really too many to go back through. So I'm going to just go through a quick feedback. We'd really love to get your feedback on this afternoon's session, and that's in fact what you're seeing on screen. So if you could head over to menti.com and use the code 815406. We'd love to get your feedback, both for ourselves as Britain's Energy Coast Business Cluster, but of course our event partners this afternoon, the NIA and Sellafield. And just chatting offline before we started the event, there's an appetite, I think, for more events like this, but we need to get feedback for those sorts of events to take place, so we can obviously understand what the market wants, and just get a little bit of feedback on how you feel today's session has gone. Obviously, we're all under slightly unusual circumstances. We're all in different places, but it is obviously a good opportunity to hear direct from, in this case, obviously Sellafield. So please do let us have your feedback. Just go to menti.com. It's completely anonymous, and use the code 815406, and that will tag in this meeting. So I'm going to come back to John McGibbon, and he's going to just round off today's session.
Indeed. Hi everybody. Just like to say a big thank you for everybody who's contributed. Certainly the Sellafield guys, it was a really detailed presentation there, and it's really good news that this procurement's coming up now. Obviously, thank you to our partners at NIA and to all our members and others who have joined with us today to give us what I can only describe as a really good session. 178 people I saw there at the peak. It's a fantastic number for a session like this, and it really shows the engagement that we're able to gain with the network and the market, really. I think it's been a really good session, and we hope there's many more of these to come. Certainly as work picks up and interest picks up in the nuclear industry, as a nice stable industry to be working in, I think it bodes well for the future for all of us. And just like to say a few things on behalf of some of our companies as well. If we could have the next slide up, please, Andrew. Oops. Oh, backwards, sorry. So obviously we are now predominantly back to work, so I don't know how all of you are doing, but certainly a lot of the people here are back in business now. A lot of our member companies also are there to support you. So we've got quite a wide range of people who can help out getting you back into the office. We've got group members who are able to sell you furniture and different signage and dispensers and a range of PPE and sanitisers. So if anybody needs any help, that would be fantastic if you could join with some of our members to go and get some of that help. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of other companies as well who are able to help you out with financial advice, legal advice, and the likes of our friends at A Digital, who can help you with Zoom meetings and presentations. So lots of good support there for anybody who needs it. We know it's a difficult time, and we'd like us all to come out of this stronger and not leave anybody behind. So if you want to know anything more about BECBC as well, we hope you've enjoyed the event today. You can see Hazel's email address up on the screen there. Hazel's the wonder behind everything we do, and please feel free to drop Hazel an email or give her a call, and we'll let you know a bit more about becoming a member of the cluster. Thank you very much, everybody, and hope you found something useful out of everything.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and again, the feedback will be in the chat. Sorry, the feedback code is in the chat. If you've not had the chance to leave us that yet, look out for an email which will circulate after the event. That'll have a link to the video recording, and there'll be other details that are relevant to today's presentation included. So that's all for this afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us on behalf of Britain's Energy Coast Business Cluster and our event partners this afternoon, the Nuclear Industry Association and Sellafield. Thanks very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.